Welcome back. Let's talk about Rivers politics. We'll be joined in the program by the National Legal Advisor Committee for the Defense of Human Rights, Mr. Henry Akine. Mr. Akine, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you very much for having me. Good morning.
Rivers is always an interesting and intriguing case when it comes to our politics. One moment you think is over, then hostilities resume. Looks like the rhetorics we've been hearing of late, both from the governor, Siminalayi Fubara, and his political godfather, Nyesom Wike, who has been touring the state around his base, I think from other east now, Emoha and a couple of other places. It looks like what is going on is a resumption of hostilities. Or is this the public maybe generally overthinking about the issues around politics in Rivers State?
Yeah, Jeffrey, some of the comments may justify that concern, but in the mix of it, there is also the positive side of the activities, if you like, governance and politics in Rivers State. Before the Honorable Minister for the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, probably returned to the state and then perhaps visiting his friends across some local governments in the state, recall that there have been also over a week, about 2 weeks, tour of different local governments and sites of projects for development. That's the positive side of what has been happening in Rivers State. And the governor of Rivers State going from one local government to another, and one community, I mean rural communities really being touched by development. People of Rivers State showing up. The people of Rivers State coming out to also show appreciation of those positive sides of the activities or political activities in Rivers State. But since the talking points this time, the last 2 days, appears to be around the one that the former governor and current minister of the Federal Capital Territory is visiting his friends across local governments, yes, it's important to examine the comments, the rhetorics, and of course, the reactions of people across the state. And I think without undermining the implication or effect of some of those rather unguided comments, it's important that everybody shows concern as to the political developments in Rivers State, whether it's a recipe for another round of crisis, unavoidable and unnecessary crisis, or it's something that we should all collectively condemn and then call out political gladiators in Rivers State. It doesn't matter who is involved. And then as a people say enough is enough. We've had not too long ago some indications of this kind of utterances that led to where we got to. And then where we are now, where we thought that peace had actually returned to the state and development is going on, and then the people are happy. But right now, this is about the end of the year. This is not what we expect to be discussing, even on national television concerning Rivers State.
And so you're wondering, let me bring one of the things that was said. The governor, former governor of Rivers State, now City Minister Nyesom Wike said the other day, I think it was in Emoha or that, he said one of the mistakes the governor had mentioned, had made, is to mention amount in the coffers. He said he left 300 billion, he came to me 600 billion. So that has attracted a lot of people. I don't know whether he was taking a swipe at some people at the federal level, because I know that the NSA, National Security Advisor, had visited the governor and said, Tinubu is happy with you. And he's saying that, look, everybody is saying the president is happy with you because everybody wants Rivers money. How attractive is this Rivers money that everybody wants?
Jeffrey, Rivers State is a frontline state in the Committee of States in Nigeria. And of course, it's a wealthy state. We can pride ourselves to be one of the wealthiest states in the country. The source of revenue, generating huge revenue to the country. But that's not to say that it's justified for our revenues and our funds and our money, whether internally generated or drawn from the Federation account, to be dissipated and given to any person for whatever reason that is extraneous, that's outside of the basic provision or the provision of basic welfare and then provision of security for our people. But then, on the aspect of the governor stating what amount of money he left, while the unconstitutional, I maintain that, unconstitutional state of emergency that was declared by the president, and then I think for me at some point, what then would we call transparency and accountability really? And again, it didn't come off the governor as said the first to state that. We recall that the members of the River State House of Assembly, particularly the Speaker, the Right Honorable Ameule, actually made some comments, I recall, with respect to the governor coming back in September and then meeting some 600 billion that was left by the unconstitutional sole administrator. Now, I think sometimes we will incite someone to make some response to some critical issues. And then I understand that in one of the public outings of the governor, he made that response. If the minister of the Federal Capital Territory is judging that as a mistake, I think that the balance is that the River State House of Assembly made a mistake of saying that we had 600 billion when the unconstitutional sole administrator left. And then the governor saying that when he actually left, it was 300, and then even if it has risen to 600. For me, that's not a justification for anybody who has come to River State for whatever purpose to want to pilfer or in any way influence the governor to pass some of the money to him. But one thing that I think I'll draw from what the minister has said, perhaps it's privileged to have the understanding and to know, because he's at the center of politics and amongst the politicians. And maybe he too, if he visits any other state, if they share the funds of the state to politicians who visit, I don't know. So it's only the minister that will be able to explain whether when public officials from the center visit sub-regional states of the federation, that monies are really given to him or to such politicians. He has been a governor. Perhaps he's speaking out of experience, that when he was governor and then he received a number of visitors. The same thing that is happening now happened when he was governor. He received his brother governors from across the states, especially those who were in support of his ambition and then his philosophy. And then he received also other principal officers in the federal government. So was he also giving them money? Were they coming to extract funds from River State monies? I think for me, I'll leave that to the minister. But we are watching, and for those of us who are from the civil society, we also are requesting for accountability and transparency at all points by anybody who is in a position to appropriate and expend public funds. So if the minister has raised this alarm, then it's important that every one of us will act as watchdogs and then observe what really is happening. But on the other hand, we also are observing what the governor is doing, whether there are projects, whether there are activities of governance, or whether they are positive in the direction of development for the state, and whether there are people-oriented policies and programs. These are the areas that funds are expected to be appropriated and expended, and especially if they are directed towards enhancing the welfare of citizens and ensuring security of life and property in River State. So if that's what is happening, then we can probably, in a way, say this is where the funds are actually directed and going. Even at that, we're expecting that we would at all times call on public office holders and those who are handling our funds to be accountable to the people, to be transparent in all they do. And then at the exit of their office, at the end of their terms, they should be able to render some stewardship, some account of stewardship really to the people. This is also expected of the minister himself when he would also leave office as minister. He never did that when he was the governor of the state. Yeah. Maybe we missed the point of actually asking him to account for the funds that he expropriated in River State, but because he transited and probably handed over power to someone he had anointed, someone he supported, someone he actually also endorsed. Yeah. Even if now he's saying he's withdrawing his endorsement and withdrawing his support. Yeah. But that's another conversation, really, whether a person who was endorsed and probably anointed and supported and eventually elected by the people of River State and became the governor of the state can actually continue to be governor, even when such endorsement and of course, support was withdrawn by the person who hitherto giving that support and that endorsement. These are some of the comments and rhetorics I think that are being made by the minister in Rivers State in the past few days that are actually generating the talking points and also raising concerns as to pre-election violence. Don't forget that there will be some constituency elections in Rivers State in just about 2 months away, if not less. And so some of the comments now are judged to be pre-election violence comments indeed.
Yeah, very strong points that you have made that cannot be ignored. But then again, some would ask if he would, be doing the whistleblowing, if indeed, all was well between himself and his successor, Governor Sim Fubara. And yet again, another question that could be asked of this is, why is Minister Wike still so deeply invested in the politics of Rivers, having said publicly that he would not interfere when he leaves office, but what we have seen is to the contrary. But speaking of funds, another matter that may be related to this is what we heard over the weekend from former governor of Ekiti State, Fayose, when he, called out the current governor of Oyo State, Makinde, for receiving 50 billion naira in funds from, the federal government, to tackle the Ibadan explosion that occurred earlier on. Now, I'm wondering, because this came on the heels of the media chats that the Oyo State governor had last week, in which he revealed to Nigerians that Governor Wike had said that, Minister Wike rather, had said that he was going to be holding the PDP for the president. Now, this has now come from former governor of Ekiti State, Ayo Fayose. Are you wondering about how this is all connected from where you stand? Is he working for Minister Nyesom Wike? And is this all leading us to what 2027 will look like?
Yes, thank you. I think one disturbing aspect of one's following a review of their actions and comments of politicians anytime we're drawing close to the penultimate year to transition in Nigeria is the kind of comments and accusations, counter-accusations, cross-labeling that the respective political gladiators will do against one another. Yes, I followed up also Makinde's press conference, and of course his comments with respect to what he knew about the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, and then according to Makinde, unsolicited sort of support that he wanted to give to the president. Yes, we heard all of those. Why are these comments coming out now? That's one fundamental question. And again, Ayo Fayose reacting as if he was an emissary for Nyesom Wike. Of course, we've known that they've actually been very good friends some time ago, and probably still friends. And then the Nyesom Wike returning to Rivers State and making the utterances that he has made. One thing I've observed is this. One of the strategies of Nigerian politicians, which for me is a weak strategy, is to vilify the political opponent and then to look out for areas of probably trying to denigrate the personality of that political opponent. Maybe that's acceptable as political strategy for elections, I don't know. But as a political scientist, even before being a lawyer, I think that there are more positive and more intriguing strategies really than just trying to vilify political opponents. But one thing is instructive, really. Public funds, once mentioned, whether by a political enemy or a political friend, raise public funds, when mentioned, raise serious concern to those of us who are watching from the flanks. I would want to always call public office holders to account. If Makinde has been accused of receiving some 50 billion naira from a special intervention fund of the presidency, and then what I think would happen is colleagues in Oyo State, comrades in Oyo State, civil society organizations in Oyo State should follow on, because that fund is not for him. But I understand also that Makinde had made a response to that allegation. All of these will be extracted and then, of course, analyzed by those who would want to check on the activities of Makinde himself. But elections are here, and then we know that in Nigeria, the politicians consider the finances, that's electoral funding, as a strategic strategy, or I mean a very important strategy for winning elections, because they know how susceptible the electorates are with respect to receiving money. So if we begin to hear these amounts of money coming in the hands of politicians, especially those who are ambitious of getting into power again or supporting someone to emerge, then we should be concerned. So I think I am concerned about the reference to certain 50 billion intervention for your state. And then, yes, on Wike, coming back here in Rivers State on his visit, and then going across the local governments and alleging that politicians who are coming to Rivers State are coming as, if you like, those who would want to come and draw from the well of funds of Rivers State. We would be concerned, but I think for me, we also will watch those who are making these utterances. Who are they really? Are they transparent themselves? I'm not saying that we throw away what they are saying. I analyze that. We're going to take that very seriously. But we also will check them. Is there some wicked saying this because the money is not coming in his direction?
Well, Mr. Ekene, if you can hear me, let me come in quickly here and also make the point that some have also said he's a politician himself. So is he on that list of politicians? But I want you to help us get some clarity this morning. For a lot of people, they've watched Rivers State politics with concern, more confusion really than anything. So as it is today, is Rivers State PDP or APC? If it is APC, is it Governor Fubara's APC or Minister Wike's APC or PDP as the case may be? Which, or PDAPC as has been said. So which is Rivers? Which flag is Rivers flying, and what brand of flag is it flying right now?
Even watching at you, you were lavishly confused as to what it is in Rivers State, but that's understandable. I think I've said that since 2023, I've said this some point somewhere, that there hasn't really been an opposition political party in Rivers State. Unfortunately, we practice a multi-party democracy, but it does appear to me in Rivers State that there hasn't actually been a political party opposition in Rivers State since 2023. The reality on ground in Rivers State is this. There has been a deliberate marriage between the All Progressives Congress and the People's Democratic Party in Rivers State for about 2 years now. And that hasn't changed. So it's really some sort of an unusual, uncommon situation in the case of Rivers State. But those are the intrigues of politics in Rivers State. So now the People's Democratic Party, which is actually the platform that sponsored the governor of Rivers State in 2023, and then I think all of the 32 members of the Rivers State House of Assembly, and then every other political office holder, I think across even the local government, the National Assembly seats, perhaps except one at Eleme or so, they were largely almost 90, 95, 98% People's Democratic Party electorates, really. I mean, those who were elected by the people on the platforms of the PDP. But when we progressed to a point that the All Progressives Congress became an extension of the People's Democratic Party in Rivers State, was when Nyesom Wike himself, I think for me at this point we call names, Nyesom Wike himself, and we do know we're here in Rivers State, got one of his, I wouldn't say, went for the want of appropriate word, I would say a stooge, but more or less a supporter of his, but one that will follow him without questioning habitually, and that is Chief Tony Okocha. Chief Tony Okocha became a controversial chairman of the All Progressive Congress in Rivers State, despite the decisions of the court. And that was deliberate by Nyesom Wike. That was the point he orchestrated a seeming merger of the PDP and the APC in Rivers State.
If I may come in.
ardent supporter and follower of Nyesom Wike, became the chairman, controversial chairman of the APC in Rivers State. So there wasn't a clear difference then between the APC and the PDP.
All right, Mr. Kenneth, because of time.
What happened in the House of Assembly.
My apologies, because of time. I think your points are well noted. The issue around Rivers State is an interesting one. That's why we call it the theater of the absurd and a literal conundrum in substance. In fact, sometimes the more you think about it, the more it doesn't make sense when it comes to the politics of Rivers State. You just have to look, learn, and observe what is playing out. But we hope that whatever political shenanigans happens, it doesn't degenerate to where we found the state to have been in a state of emergency, albeit controversial, in the last 6 months before the governor was brought back and the National House of Assembly were brought back. Well, I must thank you, Mr. Henry Kine. He's a legal practitioner and national legal advisor, Committee for the Defense of Human Rights. Thank you, sir, for coming on the program.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. I appreciate compliment of the season. Rivers State is peaceful, will continue to be peaceful, and no single individual is greater than the state. No individual can disqualify anybody from running election except as provided in the Constitution, and no single individual can return anybody elected as governor in Rivers State. That's clear. So it doesn't matter whatever our track is. It's my pleasure being with you.
All right, thank you so much. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about the issue of fake drugs. Join us in just a moment. We'll be right back.